If your kitchen's feeling a little bit chilly lately and your dough has been a bit sluggish to rise, then this is the video for you. I'm Rhiannon, owner of the Epsom Bakehouse, and if you'd like more bread making tips and recipes, then you can sign up for my regular newsletter via the link below this video. As a thank you, you'll get 3 quick and simple bread recipes that you can bake at home in minutes. So get started on your bread making journey. If you live somewhere with a cooler climate, or you're moving into the winter months and the weather is going to get significantly colder, then bear in mind the effect that might have on how you make bread at home. The yeast in your dough is a living being, and perhaps just like us, when it gets cold and dark, it just gets a bit more slow and sluggish, and it works a lot more slowly. What you want the yeast to be doing is digesting the flour and the starches, particularly, into sugars, and then they feed on those and produce gas, carbon dioxide, that rises your dough. That entire process takes a lot longer when the weather's cooler because the yeast work a lot more slowly in cooler weather. So here's 3 things that you can do when baking bread in cooler weather to make sure you get a fantastic loaf at the end. Number 1, think about the temperature of the ingredients that you're using. Your yeast work best at warmer temperatures, but only up to about our body temperature. So don't make it too hot. But one of the best ways that you can control temperature is by warming up the water that you add into your dough or other liquids, for example, milk. So you could add some warm water, but nothing warmer than your own hand temperature. Adding in that bit of warmth will really help your yeast work a bit faster in colder temperatures. And make sure your dough temperature starts at a warmer temperature, especially if you're in a cooler environment. As well as adding that slightly warmer liquid, you could also check that your ingredients are at room temperature or perhaps even a bit warmer. It's been suggested that you could even microwave your flour for a few seconds before you add it in to your bowl. Just be careful, no longer than a few seconds, and it shouldn't be hot to touch. Tip number 2, think about where you're rising your dough. You've put all that warmth in, perhaps you've added some warm water, but you don't want the dough to then go cold as your dough sits there for an hour, 2 hours whilst it's rising. Find a warm and cozy spot. For example, you could use, I have here, a microwave. So it's a smaller, a contained environment, and you can put your dough in and then put a cup of warm or hot water next to the dough to create steam. And that will gently warm the environment around your dough and allow it to rise more quickly. Essentially, you're making your own proving box by finding a smaller space that's easier to warm up than your entire kitchen. Just make sure you're not putting your dough directly on any kind of heating element. For example, directly on a radiator or boiler or inside an oven that's just been on. It will be far too hot. Other options include if you use the hob or stove top, if you have lights just above them, then turn those lights on and it can add a bit of gentle warmth again to help your dough rise. Keep an eye on your dough if you are putting it in an environment like this and make sure it's well covered so that it doesn't dry out whilst it's rising. You may also use tea towels to cover your dough whilst it's rising, but you could also use a couple of additional towels to really wrap your bowl whilst it's rising and keep the warmth that you've created inside the bowl and help your dough to rise. Tip number 3, check your dough, not the clock. If it's cooler, your dough is going to take a lot longer to rise. And that means don't just rely on whatever the recipe says of how long you should leave your dough. If your dough is still completely solid, just like this one that I've just kneaded and that has yet to rise, then you're going to need to leave it longer. Even if you've used slightly warmer ingredients or water and you found a cozy spot for your dough to rise, it might just be that your yeast is still a little sluggish in this cooler weather. Add on perhaps another half an hour to your dough rising time when it's cooler and come back and check it. At least you've got time to go off and do whatever else you need to do. There you have 3 things you should do before you start making your dough in cooler weather to make sure you get a great loaf at the end. Have those ingredients or the water a little warmer before you start. Find a cozy spot for your dough to rise in and give your dough a little more time to rise. It may just take that bit longer in cooler weather. If you found this video helpful and you'd like more bread making tips, recipes, and more information about all my online classes and courses for bread making, then sign up to my newsletter or check out more details below this video. And do subscribe to the channel to get more bread making tips. And I look forward to seeing you again soon for more bread making tips with me, Rhiannon, and the Epsom Bakehouse.